I have for you the answers to textbook page 171. So it's the quiz covering sections 4.1 and 4.2. So these are the answers to this page. I'm going to go through them with you, and I'm going to go through and work several examples from this assignment. In numbers 1 through 5, you were asked to write and solve an equation. So if you just have an answer for these, it's not considered completely correct. I would give half credit if you only have answers. So just know that if this is an actual quiz or a test, and if you are asked to actually write the equation and you don't do that, you're going to lose about half credit for it. So for number 1, the equation would be A equal 0.28 times 75, and then the answer is 21. For number 2, the equation is 42 equals 0.21 times W. The answer is 200. Number 3, the equation is 36 equal P times 45. The answer is 80%. Number 4, the equation is A equals 0.68 times 12. The answer is 8.16. Number 5, the equation is 66 equal P times 55. The answer is 120%. Number 6 is an increase of 200%. 7 is a decrease of 30%. 8 is a decrease of 61.9%. 9 is an increase of 43.8%. 10 is a decrease of 17.3%. 11 is an increase of 100%. 12 is 50 text messages. 13 is 17 passes. 14 is 93.33%. 15A is 2.5% increase. 15B, 7.5% increase. Number 16 is $16,000. So let's review that again if you need to. Pause if you need to. I'm going to go back and work through some of these with you. Try to do a nice variety for you. Okay, so let's just start with number 1. What number is 28% of 75? So for numbers 1 through 5, the first step in all of these was to write the equation A equals P times W. A is the part, P is the percent, W is the whole. So what were we given here? We were given 28% of 75. So that makes 75 the whole because you're taking a percentage of it. So you're going to put 75 for W. And 28%, you're going to put 0.28 into your formula. And you're going to multiply that to get your part. So 0.28 times 75 gives me an answer of 21. So you should have this line and this line to get full credit. What about number 3? Same directions. I'm going to start with my formula. The part equals the percent times the whole. And for number 3, 36 is what percent of 45? So we're looking for a percent of 45, so 45 will be the whole. And 36 will be the part. Okay? How do you know if you're given two numbers like this, how do you know which one is the part, which one is the whole? Don't expect it to always be the bigger number that's the whole. It doesn't have to be. And when it says percent of, then the number after the word of will always be your whole. So now we need to solve this for P. We're going to do our inverse operation. You have to undo your multiplication, so you divide both sides by this 45. 36 divided by 45 gives us, I don't know if they can, 36 divided by 45 gives me 0.8. I need to express my answer as a percent. If I multiply by 100, it's going to move my decimal 2 spaces to the right, so it becomes 80%. What about number 5? Still the same direction, so we're going to start with our formula. Part equals the percent times the whole. 66 is what percent of 55? Okay, which one is the part, which one is the whole? Well, we want to find the percent of 55, so 55 comes after the word of, 55 is the whole. We have to solve for P again, like we did before. Our part is 66, so this is a good example of where the part is not smaller than the whole. It doesn't have to be. So we can divide both sides here by 55 to cancel that. 66 divided by 55 gives me 1.2. I have to express this as a percent, so I'm going to multiply by 100, moving my decimal over 2 places. It becomes 120%. Okay, why did it turn out to be larger than 100%? Well, because your part was larger than your whole. So you have a more than 100%. Let's look at number 7. So here we're asked to identify the percent of change as an increase or decrease, then find the percent change, round to the nearest tenth of a percent if necessary. Number 7, we're going from 300 miles to 210 miles. This is going to be a decrease. We're going to set it up, find a percent decrease. We need to do 300. We need a bigger one minus a smaller one, divided by the starting point, so the 300. So 300 minus 210 is 90, divided by 300. That gives me 0.3. And when I move my decimal over 2 spaces, it becomes 30%. That was a 30% decrease. Let's do number 11. 35 people to 70 people. So this is a percent increase. You do the larger minus the smaller, divided by the starting number that you were given, 35. So 35 over 35 equals 1. If we convert to a decimal, you multiply by 100, or you move that decimal 2 spaces, so you've got 100%. Number 12, let's do some of these word problems together. So number 12, you have 44 text messages in your inbox. How many messages can your cell phone hold? The cell phone, it says the inbox is 88% full. So how do I do this? Well, I'm given a percent, I'm given a part, and I'm asked to determine my whole. So I need to use my formula. A equals P times W. So the part A is, so what do I have here? I've got 44 and I've got a percent. 44 is my part because I want to know how many total messages can I get. So 44 goes in for A, 0.88 goes in for P, and I'm solving for W. So divide both sides by 0.88. So I'm going to do 44 divided by 0.8. Oh, excuse me. 44 divided by 0.88 gives me 50. So the whole is 50 messages. A quarterback completed 68% of his passes in a game. He threw 25 passes. How many passes did the quarterback complete? Okay, now Miss Lewis doesn't know very much about football, so I had to read this a couple of times to make sure I totally understood it. So apparently there's throwing a pass and then there's completing a pass. That's two different things. All right, so I didn't know that. He completed 68%. He threw 25. How many passes did he complete? So he threw 25 passes. How many of those did he complete? So the 25 is going to be the whole, and we have to figure out the part. So that would be what he completed. So we're going to start with our formula. A equals P times W. He threw 25, so that's going to be the whole. And his percent, he completed 68%, so that's going to be 0.68. And we have to figure out how many of those passes he completed, so that's going to be our part. So we're solving for our part. So we're going to multiply 0.68 times 25, and that gives us 17. All right, now Miss Lewis is not comfortable with football, so I've got to look at it again to see what the units are supposed to be. Are those passes, or are they, I don't know. 17 what? How many passes did the quarterback complete? He completed 17 passes. Even though I don't know what that means, I can still do the problem. Okay? Okay, everybody should understand how to do number 14. I'm going to do it using the formula, but you could have done it a different way. Number 14 says you answered 14 questions correctly on a 15-question quiz. What percent did you receive on the quiz? Round to the nearest hundredth. So we're going to use our formula. Part equals percent times the whole. So your quiz had 15 questions, so that's your whole. You answered 14 correctly, and you got to figure out your percent. So divide both sides by 15. And that's going to give me 93.33. Oh, excuse me, okay, I got 0.93333. 0.9333, it keeps going for P. But we have to express that as a percent, because if you got 14 questions correct on a 15-question quiz and Miss Lewis puts in a grade of 0.9, you would be upset. So that means this is not right. We've got to convert this to a percent, so we're going to multiply that by 100, moving our decimal over 2 spaces. So it becomes 93, and they wanted us to round to the nearest hundredth of a percent, so 93.33%. Number 15, and this is not going to make it on the screen. I can't move my tripod, but just know this is the question that you're doing, so you can look at it in your book. The graph shows the amount of fruit juice available per person in the United States during a 6-year period. What is the percent of change from 2002 to 2005? What is the percent of change from 2002 to 2003? So, percent change, we know how to do that. For 2002 to 2005, it went from 8.0 to 8.2, so that's what we have to calculate. 15.8, we want percent change from 8.0 to 8.2. That's all we're worried about here. It was an increase, and we're doing the, we want to do the larger minus the smaller, so 8.2 minus 8 divided by the original, which was the 8 where we started from. 8.2 minus 8 is going to be 0.2, and then we divide that by 8. So 0.2 divided by 8 gives us 0.025. Okay, we're calculating a percent, so we have to move the decimal 2 spaces to the right. It becomes 2.5%, and that's increase. 2.5% increase between those years. For part B, what is the percent of change from 2002 to 2003? So between those 2 years, it went from 8.0 to 8.6. So we need to calculate it's still an increase. 8.0 to 8.6. So we're expecting to get a larger percent this time because it was a bigger increase. So we need to do 8.6, the larger minus the smaller. 8.6 minus 8.0, divide by the original 8.0. It gives me 0.6 divided by 8.0. That gives me 0.075. It needs to be converted to a percent. So multiply by 100, move the decimal 2 spaces, and you've got 7.5% increase. Okay, so that's my answer, 7.5% increase. I think all of these questions were very, very reasonable questions that you could certainly expect to see on a test in the future. Number 16 is tricky. All the other ones I think were extremely straightforward. All right, we're going to look at number 16. And I can't get this one on my screen, so it's the very bottom of the page. I'm just going to move my book now. In number 16, it says a car loses 15% of its original value each year. After 1 year, a car has a value of $13,600. What is the original value of the car? So if the car is losing value, we're looking at a percent decrease situation. We know that percent decrease equals the original amount, because original is going to be the bigger one if it's a decrease, minus the new amount divided by the original amount. Okay, so for this problem, our percent decrease is 15% equals, we don't know the original, so we're going to have to use a variable to represent our original. We're going to put X for original. Our new value is the 13,600. Then we divide by the original, so again that's X. So this is probably a little bit more challenging for you, just knowing how to maneuver through these operations. 15% needs to be converted to a decimal, so you're going to move it 2 spaces back. It becomes 0.15. Okay, it's okay if you want to think of this as a proportion because this is over 1. So you could cross multiply this by X, 0.15x equals 1 times that whole numerator there. So 1 times all that, X minus 13,600. We're going to solve this for X, so we're going to subtract X on both sides. Now 0.15x minus 1x, that's what that means, minus 1x. These are like terms, they both have the x, so you can combine that. So you can use your calculator. You need to calculate 0.15 minus 1. That will give you 0.85x. And then on the right side of your equation, your x's cancel and you're left with negative 13,600. And in the last step, you want to divide both sides of this by 0.85. So you'll have, so you're going to divide both sides by the 0.85 to get it to cancel. And I made a mistake. Go back up a couple of lines. You may have noticed this. 0.15 minus 1 should be negative 0.85 here. So I should be dividing both sides by negative 0.85. And then I'm going to get x equals, I can type negative 13,600 divided by negative 0.85. That's giving me 16,000. So the original price of the car, or the original value of the car, was $16,000. Okay, so 16 I do realize was more challenging. All the rest of them, honestly, if you're in good shape moving forward, numbers 1 through 15 you should have been able to handle without too much difficulty. It's okay if 16 was a little bit harder. All right, so that is the textbook version of the quiz on page 171.